Gee. Right, hello there, Wheel of Time fans. I had to take a moment. I've been taking a couple of moments for the past 10 minutes ever since I finished watching episode 8, the finale of season 2. I am absolutely blooming shattered right now. I cannot begin to describe everything I'm feeling. There was a lot to cover in that episode, so join me now as I spew forth all of my immediate reaction and thoughts before giving a final episode score review at the very end. Here we go. This one might be a long one. Right then, my goodness me, what an episode. Okay, so, same as always, it's going to be a big old stream of consciousness. Here are my scribblings that I have written down whilst I was watching the show. So it may or may not be in order, some bits may be jumbled, some bits may not be, but who cares? There is so much, absolutely tons for us to go and dissect and take a look at right now. We'll start right at the very beginning. We had a massive previously on that pulled every single plot thread going from the whole series and beyond and put them all together on the table for us to know what was truly at stake, and that was good. I like that. There's so much going on in this episode that we needed this timely reminder of how things were going to go. The cold open, I thought, was very poignant. I really liked the sealing up and the binding of Ishamael into that seal that we saw at the Eye of the World. Interesting enough, bigger than the other seals, but I did really appreciate seeing sort of the pleading look in his eyes when it was a case of, I'm going to be conscious, semi-dreaming and conscious for however many thousand years, or possibly forever. It was a clever ploy by Lutheran to try and stop the cycle, but all he ended up doing was delaying it, and I think making Ishamael more ready than ever to go and do what he wants to do and break the wheel. And then we get... we also get the intro. Finally, which is great. We've not had it all series, but that's because we've had more show, and that's been better because it's a long intro, and every couple of minutes we get to get a bit more about our world that we're enjoying is fine with me. So there's bits I liked, bits I didn't like, not so much that I didn't like, but bits that I thought were maybe underrepresented in the episode so far, which we'll get to. But I did like that we started the episode proper with some white cloaks, seeing that they're there and that the Bornhold family is there. And I think that was set up quite... I mean, we needed more. Ideally, we wanted a bit more of this in previous episodes, but I assume time constraints, maybe we didn't have the opportunity. But it was important for what is to come in Season 3. We really desperately needed to have this... understanding of Dane Bornhold, just so that the story to come holds some significant weight, and I think that actually later in the episode is done quite well. We'll follow these for a little bit then. So I cannot believe they said actual literal children of the light. Like, poor little, almost babies. They got to be more than 5 or 6 years old with sensors walking towards the enemy settlement in order to purify the land ahead of the cavalry charge. It was truly despicable. It was a horrendous thing, and it was very Children of the Light. I really, really dislike this iteration of the children. And yeah, so just not very nice at all. What I did like is that it all just kind of went off as well. I mean, the episode started, we got going, and then we're having a battle for Falm, and it was in Falm. It wasn't on the plain. It wasn't a sweeping engagement with the army out and about. They attacked the city, and that was different, and I liked that. That was good, because at street-to-street fighting, you've got more chance of surviving than you have in the open field against Damane, who can just explode the earth, cast fireballs, and call lightning. So that made a lot of sense. So yeah, very good. Moving on a little bit then. Lanfear and her brief trip through the ways. I'd have watched this. I'd have watched a whole show of them just bickering through the ways. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Showing her superiority over Moiraine and Lan, and then seeing her kick them out and Rand's panic while she's laying ever more strings into him with the "you know who I am," and I'm not sure he does at this point entirely, except that he doesn't fully trust her, which is what you really want at this point. You don't want to be trusting her entirely. It is, however, at this point that it came to my mind that this episode is essentially Lanfear and Ishamael playing chess with fate and with everyone's lives. Lanfear kicking out Moiraine and Lan on the beach through a different waygate is setting up some of her pieces to counter some of Ishamael's later on. Bringing Rand here now is in effect a chance to counter Ishamael's wish to break the wheel by getting Rand to join up to the Dark really early on. And so back and forth, kidnapping Mat and giving Mat the tea that shows you the memories. It's my fault entirely for getting that wrong and not actually taking it with a pinch of salt like I should last week. That was one of Ishamael's moves, to put Mat into a position, tempting him with the dagger so that he knew that once he had the dagger he would likely join the Dark and take out Rand if he had to. So it's back and forth between the two of them, and I enjoyed that. I think it was really good in this show, and especially in this episode. And so yeah, throughout this, Lanfear sowing bits of chaos here and there while doing her best to stay out of harm's way. Speaking of tempting Mat with the dagger, I was intrigued to see Padan Fain is able to contemplate letting Mat have the dagger. It's a part of him, unlike Mat, who is just tempted and addicted to the dagger. The dagger is a physical part of Padan Fain's essence, on account of the fact that it is a part of Shada Logoth that escaped into him and left with him, and he is now becoming something more than just a dark friend. And so him being able to contemplate letting someone else have it is different. I'm not sure about that. But what I will say is we see in this episode that the dagger reaches its true potential. It burns and it blackens and it kills almost instantly. So why didn't it do that to Loial at the end of series 1? That's one of the things I'm not so sure about. Why then did poor Loial not just die? It could be because he's Ogier, who knows, but they glossed over it, and I'm glad the dagger's doing what it's doing, but I feel that maybe it should have done what it should do all the way, because it's a different kind of evil and it doesn't give a damn about who it hurts. But anyway, I digress. I really enjoy Egwene, even as the horn is sounded and she's being warned that we'll cut your tongue out and we will remove your hands if you misbehave. She still refuses to get up for a while. She's still showing that fight, that you have me as a prisoner, but you have not yet broken me entirely, and I will keep fighting and keep fighting. And we see more in the episode, and we see her fierce, furious will, and it is truly glorious later on. We get the brief moment of Nynaeve finding surprising joy in torturing the Sul'dam. And that line, "I promise you I'll make you curse the first kiss your mother ever gave your father," is another example of some of the excellent writing we've had in this. We've got some more superb Mat lines later on as well, and it's a very Nynaeve line. That it is pure rage. She's an angry woman, and again at this, she's very cold, and although it's slightly, I suppose, more brutal than Moiraine, is again very similar to Moiraine in terms of purpose and what she's willing to do for those she loves, rather than just Moiraine doing it for the dragon and being prepared to later in the episode sink a dozen ships without knowing exactly who's on board in order to make sure that the dragon can proceed towards his destiny. Nynaeve will do the same for those she loves to protect them, and that is very her, and it's great. Lan, again, empowered by his newfound acceptance and understanding, is chatty, a bit more chat back with Moiraine. It's more calm and relaxed, and she's more calm and relaxed with him. And I'm sure I read somewhere on Twitter someone say that the reason Moiraine said that it implied that one was beneath the other is because she's always considered him to be her better. And she did confirm that in this episode. Now, here's the thing. Is this her rebonding him? Yes, I think it probably is. And it's nice to see the water bond. It's a big old complicated weave with thousands of little threads going on, and it looks glorious. And again, it gives Lan this extra lease of life where he is much more confident and competent in combat, and they can feel each other and know where each other is. and once again you get this wonderful two people acting as one at the end of the episode, which I really, really like. Back on the tower, we've got Egwene, who's being forced into channel, and she doesn't want to at all, and things are about to go bad for her. But then she sees Aemon Valder, and she's like, "Oh, I can throw a fireball at you. I don't like you." And so she manages to get around the being forced to cast fireballs and stuff at people by actually wanting to in this case, and that's a good one. I thoroughly enjoyed seeing that. What I'm not so sure I did enjoy, however, was Rand facing Turak, and I thought we were going to see Rand get embarrassed with the sword for a bit and then have a fluke win as we do in the book. What we actually see is Rand with some pretty kick-ass power. I'm not quite sure where he's learnt how to do that. Just taking everybody out in one go. Bam, dead. All dead. The whole Death Guard, the High Lord himself. He left the voice behind, and the voice was like, well, don't leave me behind. I'm going to go too. I'm part of this. And I must admit, quite surprised to see that. But it was cool. I just question how he learned how to do that, considering how weak he is in terms of his knowledge at the moment. It's not like he's gone and got this from Logain that we've seen, is it? So I'm not sure what happened there. Another thing I didn't like that was happening about this time is once Ingtar, Loial and Masema had met Perrin and the Aiel, Ingtar decides to throw his life away, and it's heroic and it's a good last stand, but we do not know why. He does not get his moment of confession and his moment of redemption. He doesn't get to confess to being a dark friend. He doesn't then get to give his life to the light, knowing that his soul is spent anyway. He doesn't get any of this, and it feels like such a casual waste. Unless Masema know, because he gave him a look at the end as he was about to die. There's no gravitas to the moment, because although they've hinted at it throughout, they haven't actually had a reason for him to want to come back to the light like this, and I was so disappointed at that moment. Yeah, it was a heroic death, fine, whatever, we're going to lose characters as we go, but in this case that heroic death has meaning because it is his true selfless act as a way to try and bring himself back to the light at the very end of his life, and I was quite disappointed to see that we didn't get any of that completion. We just got the act, and so yeah, come on guys, find 30 seconds for some exposition at some point. That's all we needed. However, those things aside, most of the episode is very, very good. We'll pick up more on Lanfear's plot. She finds Bail Domon, and it turns out that she is the person who sold a piece of the seal that bound her to him in order to go and take it to Moiraine. So again, with the chess pieces and playing people from afar, this whole game of houses thing that they talk about in Kyrie, and she is a master player of this. But she's come to him, and this time she's like, I'm going to have some complete ones. I'm going to pay you an absolute bucket load of money to take them and drop them in the sea. So her plan at this point is to be the only remaining Forsaken. She is expecting everything that she does to put Rand in a position to properly kill Ishamael, and then while the rest of the Forsaken are sealed, she does not believe he's going to free them, so she thinks that she can then have the seals just taken and dropped at the bottom of the sea, which for some tens of thousands of years will keep them out of harm's way and leave her as the only Forsaken going, and therefore the person at the top of the pack who can do things as she chooses, and she can spend all that time persuading Rand to be her lover again, as far as we all understand her. So that's all very good. Bail Doman's very surprised by it all, but it's like, well, all right, money, I'll take money. And at this point you think she really, really has betrayed Ishamael at this point. She's completely gone against him and doesn't look much like a dark friend at all. Meanwhile, Matt's being very smart and is making himself a dagger-tipped spear, very reminiscent of his special power-wrought weapon he uses in the books. And whether or not this is it, or whether this is just a temporary thing until Padan Fain steals back the dagger, who knows? But it's great. It picks locks, it melts lead, it opens boxes, it does everything he needs to at the moment. Again, how has it become so powerful all of a sudden when it wasn't previously? I don't know, but I accept it. It works fine for me. Another question, actually, about the Damane channeling on top of the tower. How come Renna can't control Egwene this time? She controlled her in order to make the explosion previously in the last episode, but this time Egwene's like, I'm not doing it, and she doesn't seem to be able to make her do it. And I thought the whole point was is that channeling wasn't really an option at this point, so I don't understand what's going on there. I know Egwene's being defiant, but there's defiant and then the bracelet that can just force you to do what the Sul'dam wants you to do. So I don't understand that, I'll be honest. I'm not quite sure what's going on. I did appreciate, however, that because she was not channeling, she was not deflecting the incoming trebuchet rocks, and that did for everyone on the tower apart from the two of them. And we'll get to more of that in a minute. But it was all going pretty wrong at that point. Nynaeve's imprisoned Sul'dam takes an arrow to the neck, which Nynaeve feels keenly because they're linked and semi-bonded. Elaine takes one to the leg, and Nynaeve can't heal her. And we cut back to the tower, and Mygon, the Blue Sitter, is dead. Renna is not, though, but Egwene has a plan, and it's glorious. They each of them end up collared and with the bracelet on, but Renna is so unprepared for this that Egwene tortures her and to within an inch of her life to make her drop Egwene's collar, at which point Egwene just stares at her until she dies, and she keeps her word, and it's glorious, and she does nothing but put her up there and leave her to it. She doesn't take any extra violence against her. She just keeps her promise, I will kill you, and leaves it there. So well played, Egwene. Brilliant. And a little cheer at that point. I thought it was fantastic. There was a chance there was going to be the ultimate battle where the fighters cannot hurt each other. But we got to the point where she just out-psyched her, and that was important, I think, especially for her character. It shows exactly the kind of person Egwene is, and I really appreciated that. We've got, a bit later on, another glorious, heartfelt meeting between Mat and, this time, Perrin, who, again, both surprised to see each other. And Perrin is also surprised to find out that Rand is alive and that needs his help. And then realises they've got to get the horn to him. But again, this is one of those moments I mentioned earlier where we get a glorious Mat line. He's got shit hair, but he's alive. It's absolutely spot on, Mat. I love it. It's fantastic. And so all the threads are coming together towards the end of it all. We have got Perrin and Loial and the Aiel and Masema holding off the charge, and that's a fight, if you will, that no one wants to get into. You're not going to come out of that alive, are you? You've got Mat running with the horn now released from the box, because once again his magic dagger just opens everything with a bit of a touch and a scratch. We've got Rand and Egwene up on top now, facing down against Ishamael, although as with everything we've got a push of air which knocks a channeler out quickly enough to make them not a problem. But it all starts to come together, and then up there all of a sudden Rand is shielded from a very long way away by some very powerful Damane. I mean, it must have been very powerful, because that was a couple of miles, I think, out to sea that they came and shielded this person they couldn't even see. But would he free himself this time? Would he even try? It doesn't look like he had the chance. He's certainly more experienced with the shield than before, but it didn't look like he was able to. Maybe because there was lots of them this time holding his shield. I don't know. Maybe he can't at the moment. Maybe he has no chance. And then poor Perrin, who's fighting on with everybody, bumps into Volda, and it's all coming to a head, and it's all about to get over. It's all about to be finished for Perrin. And then Hopper, the goodest boy, comes charging in to save his packmate and does an absolutely glorious job. And I think Rafe has mentioned several times in AMAs and on some comments and some tweets and stuff that some of his favourite acting was by the dog that played Hopper, and fair enough, to be honest. What a performance by a pup. He did amazingly. He did a great job of pretending to die, being axed to death by Gia from Braunhold, and this is the moment I've been asking for all series. Perrin, in his full golden-eyed berserker rage, reaching for an axe. At last, he's kept away from axes ever since the opening episode where he axed his missus. And this time he picks up an axe and he does it to Bornhold, and he does it to Geofram Bornhold right in front of Dane, his son, who did like his father and doesn't seem to be quite as incompetent as he is in the books. And this, now, the grief that Dane Bornhold sees in seeing Two Rivers, a man who he thought was relatively reasonable until he freed Niall and killed a load of men, seeing him just gouge his father's gut out and end his father's life right in front of him in this battle was magnificent, because now the pure hatred that man is going to have, he is going to do whatever Emenvalda wants, and he is going to take it all to the Two Rivers in the next series, and I cannot wait to see that. That is some of the best content of the whole series, and I actually think, although we could have done more time with the White Cloaks to get a bit more of an understanding, never a sympathy, you don't get sympathy for White Cloaks, the White Cloaks are the worst of things, but a bit more of an understanding of them. I think if we had a bit more time it would have hit home even harder, but for me it still hit home pretty hard, and I was quite happy with that. As things go, I think it was very good. So yeah, that's beautifully set up the next series, and I can't wait to see more about that. But again, pairing with his axe, what more could I want? I've been begging for it all series, I've got it now, I hope he keeps it. And now we get to the real meat of everything. We get Matt desperately blowing on the horn of Valere as he finds himself up against a whole phalanx of Seanchan soldiers and no way past. And at that moment, his memory clears and he realizes a lot of things. And the interesting thing is he says, "I'm a hero of the Horn." Does that mean that Matt is a reborn hero of the Horn at this point? Because it'd be very interesting to see. But I did appreciate that, and I did appreciate seeing Arthur Hawkwing. I did definitely appreciate seeing Uno Bloody Nemesta back again. That was really good. That was fantastic. And seeing Birgitte next to him. Now, here's my theory on this one. Guidal Kane is not going to be a hero for the Horn, or in fact in the show at all, because Uno is replacing him. Birgitte appeared, apparated, whatever you will, right next to Uno in the formation, and they are a very similar character, and in the books those two flirted outrageously. So I wonder if that's just a logical thing that the writers have done. They're going to merge Guidal Kane and Uno into one person, which tells me in this case then that Uno did not earn his place on the Horn for standing up to the Seanchan and getting a horn shoved through the back of his head. Uno earned his place on the Horn a long time ago and had been spun out by the Horn for reasons, particularly probably to do the hunt for the Horn, and had just returned to it to be summoned again. I think he'd been bound to the Horn before, he'd been spun out by the pattern in order to serve a purpose, and this was just every day for Uno. Uno has been around for a long time and will be around for a long time to come. So I was really, really happy with that. And they took that time in the slow-mo scene to bring together all of the threads that we'd seen so far, all of the bits of the characters and where they were and the situations they were in, and sort of took a moment to use that moment to take a pause, take a breath, to then go and show us the situation before ramping it back up and just showing how hardcore the heroes for the Horn are, and getting everyone set up into a position. So interestingly enough, Min's vision of Matt wasn't the same as what Min saw. So Min's visions aren't always in this world coming to pass in the way that she expects, because Ishamael's illusion, which was not spotted by Rand, Matt thought he'd got him, and this is what has led Rand to taking the wound in his chest that never, in his abdomen, that never truly heals. And I actually think that pays off quite well in the end. I think that works well. And then we were right. It was very much Elaine looking down at Rand, and Rand saying, "Who are you?" as she attempted to use what little healing she knew to fix the wound, but only insofar as she could, not all the way. But all the while this is going on, Egwene is going absolute tank mode. Like, Ishamael cannot find a way past her. He is way more powerful, but whatever shield she has thrown up is taking everything he can throw at it. It's bringing her to her knees, and at one point it almost breaks until Perrin shows up with Uno's magical shield that he then puts in front and helps again. But she puts in such a performance against someone so much more powerful than her, and again, testament to her insane determination and insane refusal to give up on what she knows is right. And I think that was just probably a little bit far-fetched, because he should just be able to be like, nope, you're done, shielded, whatever. But she was drawing so much, and she was so confident, and she was so sure of herself that she wasn't letting him break her. And at that point, there was enough time for Rand to be healed and to come and to I won't say kill him, but in stabbing him with the power wrought blade through the heart and branding himself on the palm, which is beautiful foreshadowing there. I did enjoy that. That was really good. Actually having Ishamael dead and Rand with the heron on his palm, saying once the heron does set his path, which is the first of the part of the prophecies of the dragon that identify him, the next one will be the second second heron to mark him, to name him true. But that bit there, seeing Ishamael be so happy to die and to find that there was nothing beyond it and it was a true death, I'm interested in this, because, well, we thought that all the Forsaken had got eternal life, but maybe that's just Lanfear. Who knows? Maybe you can kill other Forsaken outside of Balefire. And if that's the case, does that mean that we're going to see Moradin later on? I hope we do, because it's really important that character, a different side of Ishamael, again in a different body. Without that character, if Fairs is now no longer Ishamael and Ishamael is dead as a character, if we don't have Moradin, we can't end the story. So it's really, really important that we do get someone to sit in for him. But I think it was a big moment that the biggest bad of the last two series is now dead and officially dust. And I assume he's dust because he's so bloody old that time has just caught up with him after all the power that was keeping him going has just gone from him. So I really, really enjoyed that moment. That was great. Moiraine with the dragon banner being a giant, great, ruddy dragon made of fire was a little bit over the top, but it was cool, and it did make everyone stand up and notice, so I'll give her that. Aviendha looking up and naming him Karakan is maybe a bit premature. He's still got to go to Ruidian, but we can get to that in the next series, I imagine. And then we thought, that's it. We see Massima's face as well, sorry, at this point, and Massima is infatuated, and that is going to cause trouble down the line, but we will leave that for now because that's a story for another day. And that's the season over, or is it? Because we have a little black fade out and then we get a moment of Lanfear, and at this point I had to do stuff in the house, and so I paused it, and as a lengthy pause as I'm walking around doing a few jobs, I thought, hang on a minute, if you're Ishamael, what's your parting shot here? If you know you're likely to die, you're going to free everybody else, aren't you? And so as she walks into that room, I already knew that they were going to be broken, all those seals. What I didn't expect was to see Moghedien, the sneakiest of all the Forsaken, sat there weaving a web trap to catch Lanfear in, and she's creepy. And that's it. It was beautiful to see the first sight of Nynaeve's longtime nemesis, and she's magnificently creepy. She has Lanfear where she wants her as a warning, and then she sods off. Now, either that is a gateway, or that is, again, true power travelling. I'm not sure, but we will see. I still would like to just see the gateways spin into existence, as we would expect to be like this razor-thin edge, but who knows? The visual theme of the show is still very good. But that's the show done. And admittedly, there are a few bits I had questions over and a few bits that I didn't like because they really were undersold by what the story did. But by and large, that was the best episode of the series for me. And it was the best episode of the series for me because so much of it was excellent, and that the small negatives are just a minor detraction. So 9, maybe a 9.25. I don't think I could push to 9.5, but 9 or 9.25 out of 10, because this was truly exceptional television. I was hooked all the way through, and I cannot wait to go and watch it again, which I will be doing this evening. So yes, there we go. Right, please do like and subscribe, because it could be a while until we get more new Wheel of Time content, but there's still a lot to look at. So we're going to have to go and do a season review, and then I really want some suggestions as to what videos you want to see, because we've got a year, maybe 2 years, until we see the series again, and in that time we've got to keep ourselves occupied. So please do like, do subscribe, do share with your friends, and until the next video next week, take care, we'll see you soon.